but it would have been nice to know this April 1st as we start to put together a budget. And don't get me wrong, a lot of districts in New York State are in this boat this morning when they found out. If that to our elected officials cannot get the job done, even though we're supposed to get the job done by the 3rd week of April. So our goals this year were to maintain programs for students, not to exceed the allotted tax cap, and to maintain jobs. And that was our plan for this year. And with this budget, we have done that. Let's go ahead to the next page. Tough to see this. You might want to get a little closer. But this is the breakdown. And for the most part, look at the top 4 line items, they're contractual obligations, just yearly increases that just come with any organization. Health insurance was up a little. We got another nice little increase of only 5%, which is great since we renegotiated that years ago. It's been a nice little, it hasn't been double digits at all, and it hasn't even reached over 6%. So, and the reason that's happening is we've been good consumers. 89% of our drugs are generic. 72% of our faculty does not go through the full deductible, which is great because what ends up happening, come on in.
Sorry.
Because what ends up happening when that happens is one, our employees get 50% of what's left on that, and 2, it never goes to claims. So we can go back to Excellus and say, yes, you're collecting this much in premiums, you're only getting this much in claims. So we'd like to get, a lower rate. They always start off at 18% increase, and then we work our way down. So they're a little quicker this year getting down, which is kind of nice. That's not a full reflection of the 5% because we squeezed this a little bit because now after 3 years, we now know where we are with health insurance. What I mean by that is we know on average what we're going through with our deductible and how many people are now on the deductible plan. Regular increases to some ERS and TRS. BOCES went down a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, because of the P-TECH, there's not as many kids taking P-TECH courses, and a little bit of some special ed was moved out of there. Debt service, as you can see, was a little bit higher, but remember that's tied down to expense aid for building aid, and that usually we try to match that. We hire fiscal advisors to try to match that up. Whatever the top number is, the bottom number should be close. Doesn't always match. But this was a couple $100,000 more than what the building aid was. So next year we might see the reverse, right? We may see additional building aid, but less debt service. Keep going down. For the most part, after that, there's just some miscellaneous things. So again, the majority of this was debt service and staff obligations. If you go down below, we have our real property taxes of 1.53. We have our foundation aid, which again did see a decent increase. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't what they promised us, 4 months ago. Expense-driven aid was up as well, and then you can see we just filled in with fund balance and TRS and ERS, and we hope every year we never hit that. Right? That's kind of the plan, but we'll see what ends up happening as we move further. Next is revenues. Go ahead.
So this is a graph we show every year. It just breaks out the different categories of our revenue. Our percentages have stayed around the same every year as well. 63% comes from state aid and building aid. This is foundation aid, transportation aid, lottery aid, textbooks, hardware, software aid. Property taxes are 30%, and that has stayed around that same percentage as well. The tax levy is 8.2 million. And that's 1.53% levy increase. And then we have 3% of our revenue coming from other revenue. This includes BOCES refunds, interest earnings, fees for building usage, tuition fees, and then charges that we charge to other districts. And then to balance the budget, we're using our ERS reserve of $496,000, our TRS reserve of $65,000, and then a fund balance of $211,000.
Next one.
This is the same graph as the revenues, just broken out into the different categories. Our instruction is the largest portion at 65%. And this includes our classroom instruction, special ed, school libraries, guidance offices, health offices, and athletics. The next one is a general support at 17%. And this is expenses for operations and maintenance, the district office, the business office, legal expenses, auditing fees, and insurance. Transportation is 8%. This is our bus drivers, our bus garage, and other contractual items for student transportation. Our debt service is 8.6%, and this is our bond payments for our current capital projects, our energy performance contract, and our capital project that is going on right now that is not completed yet, but we will start paying on that next year. Our contingency budget is $25,936,000. This represents a 0% tax increase. So it's $124,000 less than the proposed budget. If a contingency budget is adopted, it puts certain limitations on the district. There would be no use of outside organizations for the facilities, no new equipment purchases, or no new lease agreements. We have a couple of propositions on the ballot this year.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
This now be if it fails.
Right.
Right?
And we-
Yeah, you can put it back up for another vote, and then if that one fails, then you go to the continue.
Thank you.
So the first proposition is the one we've had on the ballot for over 10 years now. It's to lease 2 buses for 5 years, and like I said, we've been doing this, I think, 13 years actually. This leasing stabilizes the budget and guarantees our buses are current. The bus leases are deducted from our bus reserve fund, and then the state aid we receive on those leases goes back into the bus reserve fund. The next proposition is our capital equipment reserve. This is to spend the rest of this reserve in the amount of $170,000. This was established in 2021, and we will use the $170,000 to purchase new classroom furniture for collaborative learning. These purchases have no effect on the budget. And
Also
once-
technology, facilities, equipment.
and once this reserve is spent, it's done. This reserve is gone. And that's why we have the next proposition is to establish a new capital equipment reserve. This is just to establish it. It is not to fund it. We want to establish a new one for $500,000 at the ultimate amount. And this will be used for the same purposes as the other reserve, but we cannot vote to put money into it until it's established. Can't do it in the same year.
Next on the agenda is a carbon reduction geothermal capital project. We were very lucky, Fran, our energy manager, was able to get a $1.4 million grant from NYSERDA, which does not count against our maximum cost allowance for our buildings, which is great. And it also takes care of any of the taxpayer or any reserve that we might have to use for a capital project. And so the carbon reduction project is $14.4 million, and it's aidable. The 14.4 minus the 1.4 is aidable at 90%, 91% where we fall. We usually fall between 90 and 91.5. Again, a proposition has no tax impact. It updates our heating and cooling systems at East Hill Middle School complex, puts air conditioning in the entire complex for all classrooms and offices, and it helps us to reduce some energy costs for the district by using geothermal as the main source of energy with the heat pumps. At the same token, we have a building project coming up soon too. We're doing a building condition survey, and we look to replace probably the boilers, which will help us be more efficient. So this will be a really true reduction of energy costs, and at the same time, get a building that's 60-something years old with a new heating and cooling system in place. Fran, did they ever say when they were gonna do a press release eventually on the 1.4 million?
When we first had the thing, it was 6 to 8 weeks from then, so we probably got a few weeks left.
Up to 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, originally they said mid-April, and then it went to the end of May.
Yeah, I got word from the
Okay.
senior project manager, 6 to 8 weeks from then.
They don't want us to say anything, but we have to say something.
We're allowed to say
Propose
that,
yeah.
but we just can't do them like a major press release.
Gotcha. Next, we have on the ballot, we have a 5-year term, 2025 to 2030, and we have our incumbent, Dr. Mark Brody, will be running unopposed. And then next is just our budget vote, which is Tuesday, May 20th, from 12 to 8 p.m. Parking is a little limited from 2:20 to 3 o'clock, so be a little careful. And then we have a WebEx community budget hearing on May 12th. We did one for the faculty and staff last week. So an opportunity for people, if they couldn't make it here, to make it on May 12th. And they can always call and ask questions. We've actually went over this, last meeting or two. Again, the only caveat is the nice surprise we got this morning with the 8 months. So I've actually
That's
looked.
an interesting definition of nice.
Yes, I asked our elected officials to look into this. I think there just has to be some obligation from the state here, not that there has to be, but there should be, to kind of stick us with 6 weeks late, knowing we had to approve a budget the 3rd week of April, and then find out that we have this money. Again, if we knew this April 1st, there's a little bit of change in maybe the way that we look at things with budget. So we'll kind of take it from there. Any questions from anybody, even in the public? Yes.
What is the status of the total fund balance for the district?
It's about right now still around 10%. And the ERS reserves and stuff are pretty flush, and the TRS reserve is very flush. I'd mark it, Scott, if you want to give me an email, I can send you the exact amounts on those.
And has the energy performance contract saved the district money? Is that working out positively for us?
The current one, the lighting one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what it's done is it has an increased cost for us. You know what I'm saying? And that was the whole idea, that if you remember, was to kind of level the cost. The next project, the solar one, will be the reduction, right? Because that'll be the true source of, we will see the total reduction in terms of lighting, electric.
But still, our costs haven't gone up.
Correct.
So it has worked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember, they had to match that
Right.
if it didn't. So,
Curiosity question, are the buses gas or diesel?
these.
Diesel again?
Yep, and we have one new electric bus coming, which we got a full grant for. That'll be coming in July, with the charger, and the bus was fully,
Yeah, I read that.
full grant from, and it's kind of a little difficult to take the total cost of that. It's $500,000 for one, times that by 20, start to do our little bit of a math. Not to mention our infrastructure. We had a bus study done, $3.1 million infrastructure costs that we'd have to upgrade the facility. Does not include what National Grid would have to put in, which we're asking them to do an evaluation on that as well.
Do we
So,
have to do anything just to charge the one bus we're gonna get?
meaning,
Will our infrastructure?
yes, yeah,
That's included in
Okay.
yeah, we vetted that out through National Grid. So we're keeping that one outside for this time, out in the back, and put the charger out there. So we're doing a dual charger. So for example, if another school came with a bus, they can go back there and charge, so. So we've maximized, and Fran's done a great job of maximizing our grant capabilities, and as they start to slowly dissipate, well, I'd say probably quickly dissipate, because of the change in political side of things, we were able to jump on this. And New York State hit us with another nice little thing, and talked to the board about this a couple weeks ago. Solar projects were built into construction costs, and as it works, we have construction and incidentals. Incidentals are usually only about 25% of your construction, right? So your maximum cost allowance for each district has a maximum cost allowance for building projects. 80%, 75% are usually in construction, 25% are in incidentals. New York State all of a sudden reversed their decision on solar projects and said it has to go to incidentals. We banked our whole last year building a project along with NYSERDA's built on the concept that it would go into construction. So we had several meetings with state ed and our fiscal advisors, and to state ed's credit, they listened to us and they reversed 1.1 million of it and let us put that into construction. So they didn't have to do that. That allowed us to open up the door to now take the geothermal, maybe reduce some of the solar with that, and put that on the new roofs that we put in, because then it would be construction costs because it's attached to the building. So if we do that, we can still maintain a $24 million capital project. That would be over 2 phases, 27 and 29, because this building would be 27 years old at this point, and the bus garage would be 28 years at this point. So we all know what happens in 27 and 28 years. So we would be able to maximize that as we do our next building condition survey. But the geothermal helped because it knocked off some of that building condition survey expenses because we're redoing the heating and cooling system down. So we think we'll be able to maximize all of the maintenance items we need for all buildings and get them to a point where we should be good for the next 8, 10, 12 years. So.
And can you explain a little bit more about the project down there for the heating? I know we got the grant and it says New York State's covering it. So we're not having to take on debt for that? Because it said it was a capital project, but then I wasn't really sure how it's.
Like any project, you still have to take out debt for the remaining part, like any capital project, but you wouldn't have to, you don't have to fund it with any reserves, and we don't have to fund it with any taxpayer dollars because that 1.4 million washes both of those out. And it also, the 1.4 million doesn't go against our maximum cost allowance, which is nice too. So we were able to salvage 1.4 million for a capital project later on. Originally, again, 2 people not talking to each other, NYSERDA and New York State Education Department. Originally, it was the whole thing was not going to be counted toward the maximum cost allowance. Then it was, oh no, all of it's going to be counted maximum cost allowance. And then we finally vetted out that 1.4 million wouldn't be counted cost allowance. So win-win, I think, overall for that. And that $1.4 million is actually huge on many fronts. So
Do you feel like the debt service is going to be negatively impacted?
no, we vetted that out with fiscal advisors to make sure it matches with the building aid.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we did along the way is we talked to fiscal advisors through the whole process, and what they did is they mapped out what each cost would be in each category, and that's why we had the hiccup with incidentals to the construction. So we repurposed it, and they've been keeping us updated as the projects come in, because in the last 8 months, 3 projects.
Right.
So does this fit? We kept saying, does this fit? Does this fit? And it was all fitting until the state said, uh-oh. And then we reshuffled that incidentals now to construction, which helped us and open up the door for the rest of it. But we had to break up the capital project to 2, 27 and 29.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's really important. We've got another 2 coming.
Correct. So that gets us through 29, but then there's more debt coming off in 31.
Okay.
So
It'll stagger.
and with a project that big, it probably would have taken 2 years anyway. So it's not putting us behind too much. We get it all planned. They can start putting everything in place. And once July 1st, 2029 happens, off you go with second phase. So it's actually, think about it, it's not a
Stagger will
bad.
work out pretty good.
Yeah. So I like the concept that we're able to do a project that big so we can make sure we maximize our maintenance issues from both of these buildings. And that geothermal really helped us erase some of that building condition survey.
I mean, we've been talking a long time about the AC down.
And now this one was able to do the whole building. It was parts from the beginning, but now we restructured it. Fran did a beautiful job of setting up the scope of it, and it's the entire building. So we shouldn't have any problem with closing school with our heat index.
Thank you.
So So a lot in the works the next 4 or 5 years for capital stuff. So exciting.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move right along then to the introduction of the Board of Education candidates. One is me, and I'll give a quick talk. The main question I've gotten is, Mark, you're 79 years old, and you've been on the board for 17 years. So why are you running again? And my first answer to that question is because Dr. Nick has agreed to continue doubling my salary. But the real reason is, it's not always been an easy thing to be on the board, but it's been a very rewarding thing. And I'm just really thrilled about the kinds of changes that have taken place in our school district over the last period of time that have really, really changed the educational experience of our kids. And it's something that's very rewarding to me, even inspiring. And I just really would like to be along for the ride for the next few years so that we can continue the process. So that's why I'm crazy enough to run for the term. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
Second.
In favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And we can go right over.
Good to see you guys. Next one.
Have a good one.
You want to stay?
No.
You want that sign?
Sure, yeah.
It's pretty much the same.
Good.
I don't know why. It seems to be working.
Oh, fine about
All right, so it's 6:03. We meeting to order. Do we have any questions or comments from the floor? Seeing none, we'll move along to the presentation on student empowerment.
Yeah, yes, you sure? I feel like there's no good way around this.
Tiptoe.
Okay.
You can move the table.
That's it.
It's coming.
Okay, there it goes. All right, so we're talking about student empowerment. So just to give a definition, what is student empowerment? So giving students a sense of ownership in their education. This involves students having meaningful voice and choice in their education rather than simply being passive recipients of information. So that's really what I kind of want to focus on, and just talk about the things we're doing to try to give voice and choice to our students. So the first thing I did actually was I called a couple of neighboring districts in the region and just asked their principals, asked their supers, like, so what are you guys doing for student empowerment? So I got kind of a small list. I heard a lot student council, like everyone said student council, student elections, and then kind of some of the outgrowth of kind of typical things student council might do, dances, spirit week, pep rally, things like that. Program planning with their counselors, I heard that, similar to us. A couple of exploratory things, like,
Wait, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, when you say program planning, mean for themselves?
for the students, like guidance counselors meeting with the
Yes, so they're
students.
talking about going to college or whatever that.
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
I think-
Schedule style, yeah.
Yeah, schedules, classes, scholarships, different, stuff like that. And then, two exploratory ideas I got. There was one district that was exploring the idea of a student board representative, but didn't quite have it yet. Another district.
After next year, on your stay.
Well, they better
Yeah.
make the discovery then. And they've also been exploring the idea, I forgot to put that, but portrait of a graduate, they're exploring it, but not really have implemented it yet. So that's what other schools in the region are doing. So I kind of thought about like, what do we do to promote student choice in their education, to empower them to make the choices that are gonna make their life better? And then what are we doing to give students a voice? So kind of broken up into two lists. So for choice, we have academies, which I know is very unique in the region, no one else is doing it. We're just finishing our first year on the academies, it's went really well. The first year or two, as you know, is just students taking electives, but the whole point of the academy is student choice, right? We want kids to be able to look at different career paths and say, what do I want to take? What do I want to do? And then explore that. And then sometimes that choice leads them to say, I don't like this at all. And then, okay, well, you explore something different. And sometimes it leads them into some awesome discovery. So that's a really big part that we have. We also do career surveys. That's tied.
Can I again interrupt?
Come in, Becca.
What percentage of the classes has elected to go for academies?
It's this year, they're both about half. This last year was a little over half, this year's a little under half. So they're both hovering around 50%. And it's something that I think is going to increase over time, like especially as the later classes kind of come up and internships and stuff start happening, then that can kind of continue to build excitement. So I think it's something that's going to grow, not shrink. So career surveys are linked to the academy. So we actually do those a couple of times. So in 8th grade, the counselor goes down and gives all the students a career survey. So that gives them different career clusters of what they're interested in. And they're not forced into any career cluster. But what it does do, it gives them different choices. Like, okay, I'm more apt to do X, Y, Z, but maybe I really don't want to do X, Y, Z. So I can still do A, B, C, but at least I kind of know where I'm going to. We also use this at the high school because we do have, everyone from sophomores, juniors, seniors that just really have no idea what they want to do. And so we give like kind of, this is more an individual basis, but if we see a kid who's struggling, they'll take a career survey, try to kind of guide them. Like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Which also ties into program planning. Program planning is something that happens every year. Every kid sits down with their counselor and has a conversation about what their goals are for high school, what their goals are for college, what their goals are for the workforce. And then they kind of plan their schedule and their high school pathway based off of that. And that could go into any number of directions. We already talked about the academies. And then we have all kind of the special, the other places, CTE, New Visions, early admit for college, P-Tech, and of course, college and high school courses. This is something that we've really been working on growing. I think as part of the academies, I really feel that every kid should be exposed to college courses. There's a stigma around college courses for many of our kids that either A, college is stupid, B, college is meaningless, or C, I can't do college, it's just too hard, I don't like school. The reality is we've all been to college, we know that that's not the case. Every one of our kids can do a college course. So baked into every academy are college courses that kids will take through the course of their academy. But in addition to that, we're just increasing the number of offerings in college in general. So even like, our academy kids are our current freshmen, but our current sophomores are still gonna have access to expanded course offerings. So we're really looking at, if a kid kind of takes loads of college classes, which they can graduate with just about a semester's worth full of college. And then the college and high school courses are reduced. They're cheaper just by nature of them being cheaper, but also many of our kids qualify for a scholarship, which, turns out kids pays like $100-something per credit. Like, it's as cheap as they're gonna get. And they can walk out of here with a nice amount of credits, which I just think is awesome. We also have.
Again, can I just interrupt?
Yeah, of course.
Have you heard from colleges that they will be accepting these courses as a college credit?
They're through the colleges.
Okay.
And then they usually through, like, we mostly go through FMCC. We have a few that go through UAlbany, but they're already through colleges. So they're dual credit. So they're taught here by our teachers, but our teachers have to submit their curriculum and submit their syllabus and all that to the colleges. It gets approved by the colleges, and then once every, it's usually like once every couple of years, to be honest, the college professor will come and, observe. Like last year when I observed Patty Countryman, for example, our college professor observed her at the same time I observed her, and we observed her calculus class. So that's just to kind of make sure the integrity of the college classes are being upheld. But yeah, other than that, it's all taught here. The kids will directly pay the college, so they'll kind of sign it off, and so the parents still kind of take care of the financials. We're not the middleman in that. We just kind of give them the information. Parents pay, but all the coursework is done here, and then they have that college credit both through that college, and it's on their high school transcript as well, so you can see it in 2 places. That's why it's a dual credit.
So it's different than AP.
Yes, because the difference is with AP is it's a college level course in terms of the material being taught, but you're not guaranteed a college credit. You could pass an AP class and you can get a 2 on the exam, and then you don't get credit, or a 3, because different colleges have different thresholds. There are colleges that are increasing where even if the kid gets a 3, they're still not accepting the credit. So then that's also really appealing to our kids. It's why kids, I'll give you an example. So the way Ms. Countryman teaches her calculus class is both through a college and high school and through AP. So you're just kind of doing both. This year, 0 of her kids took the AP because they just paid through the college. So all of those kids are getting the credit. They didn't even need taking the AP exam would have been a waste of their time and the school's money. So AP is not guaranteed. And honestly, I just personally feel like it's kind of just on the way out. It's becoming less and less of an important thing, where college and the high school is guaranteed. The kids will leave with a credit, and this credit is through the college, it's accepted, it's transferable, and it's really, kids are like, I think it's overall better. Go
Can I
ahead.
say something?
Yeah.
Because I did a whole bunch of research on this. I called a lot of the colleges, and the upper tier colleges wanted AP classes. They wouldn't take the state college,
Really?
the community college credit.
Interesting.
So I understand about them maybe not taking that credit even if they have a 3.
Yeah,
And I understand like they pick and choose where they're gonna put that credit, and it might just be elective credit. So
yeah,
it's not very specific, but I just know, that's why I chose AP for my kids.
yeah. And for the class that offer it, we usually do both. Like, so every class that we have AP is both AP or, so the kids can
Oh,
choose.
really? So the biology
Yeah.
that went down?
AP Bio is, no, AP Bio is not, AP Bio is just AP Bio still.
Right.
But like AP English is, AP History is, AP Calc is, AP Pre-Calc is, and then we have other college courses like, Tracy Evans teaches some business courses that wouldn't be AP anyway.
Right.
Like mobile app entrepreneur and computer applications, so those just are college
I just
classes.
think, just be careful how you present that to the kids.
Okay, yeah, it's good to know. So then, of course, we,
Sorry, just one other question about
oh
that.
yeah, go ahead.
Is there any opportunity for the kids to get scholarship help if their parents have difficulty, paying for these college courses?
Yes, so there's a scholarship where the tuition is basically cut in half. And most of our kids apply for it. It kind of, so if a kid meets the standards for the free and reduced lunch, the state free and reduced lunch program, then they qualify for the scholarship. And we also get outside support, even those kids who qualify and still can't pay, we have outside support to help pay for the colleges that way. So really, we don't want money to be a barrier for any of these kids, especially, given our demographic. And so we kind of have ways that, anyone can get these college credits through us. And then, we also offer the ASVAB, which is, the military exam. So we have recruiters come. So we, because there are kids that, recruiters come from all branches of the military. So which is just another choice for our kids to explore. And as you know, we've talked about internships. So this current freshman class, when they're seniors, is really when we want our internships to take off. So right now, we've just been kind of dabbling in it. Last year we had a kid who interned with a local tradesperson, like carpenter, to go around with them and work for them when they're done with school. Remember, most seniors, if they've kind of done their credits, they're here periods 1, 2, 3, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they kind of have the rest of the day and they don't need school. So we're trying to fill that time with internships to give them real world experience, and it goes back to their choice of what career do I want to pursue. So Tammy Jones, she runs her CSI program, which is an academy, but she's been kind of running it for some time. She recently got an internship for a student, which is actually really interesting because the internship's out in Gloversville, so we were going to try to explore transportation, which we could kind of use our BOCES routes to increase our area of influence, which is good. But this is it's a very techie internship, and so it's all done remotely. So she just kind of goes and she just takes her Chromebook and does her internship remotely. So she's getting that experience, and I think that was really, really interesting. That literally happened less than 2 weeks ago. It just started, so I thought that was a really interesting thing, and it something also worth exploring as we kind of continue on through the academy process. If we could look at remote internships, which is a growing trend, we could offer more opportunities for kids, beyond, our reasonable, here to Gloversville, Johnstown, wherever kind of our buses go. And then of course, community service. The DL, everyone gets 12 hours, they have to graduate, and they can kind of choose, which is just important because, you don't want to force a kid to do something they hate, and then they kind of sour on the idea of community service. So, kids choose all different things, and many times it's things that, could lead to, they, for example, volunteer at an animal shelter, right? And then that's because they have an interest in doing a vet tech, or volunteer with a local company because they have an interest in some kind of trade or something like that. So we've seen that, which is cool. And then portrait of a graduate, I know where to put this in choice or voice. It kind of falls somewhere in the middle. But this is just about kind of, the basic skills that kids need. So maybe it falls more into voice. Maybe I should win the other column. But, things like critical thinking, things like personal responsibility, things like teamwork. And so we stress that, but I think that's such an important part of giving students that voice, because they're skills that are the most important skills. And Dr. Nick always shows the graph of the upcoming skills where, the critical thinking skills are everything. That's the stuff that you're not going to lose through AI. And that's what Portrait of a Graduate does. It enhances those skills so kids, get used to using those skills, but also that they're cognizant that they're using those skills, which becomes a way for them to sell themselves on a resume, an interview, through internships, and everything else. So student voice. Okay. So Star Days, I think, is, there's just nothing like Star Days. Thank you, Carolyn. We're starting it, and and it's still going. So, Star Days are a way. Every Star Day has a theme, as I think everyone knows. And those themes also encourage students to. There's a lot of opening up. There's a lot of talking, saying, things about how they feel, things about when things are important in their life. It's really important to foster students to talk about issues that are important to them. And they're also fun, which is important to them, not just sitting in the classroom talking. But there's always a theme. Like, the last Star Days theme was wellness. So in addition to having wellness, there was little wellness goals each day. Monday, eat a certain healthy thing. Tuesday, make sure you drink plenty of water, et cetera, et cetera. So those themes are chosen by the STAR committee. So it's not just the teachers get together, hey, what do our kids want? Every grade has STAR captains. Those STAR captains help, those STAR captains are the ones choosing the themes. And so that's really important. The things that we're doing are things that the students have said, these are the things we want to talk about. We have student surveys through our board rep, which of course we have a student board representative. And, every year we have, the kids, it's just nice for them to have a go-between. Student board rep talks to kids, comes back to me, tells me kind of what's going on. And, you've seen some of that because sometimes it gets to you guys. I remember everything from kids going out for senior lunch to forks in the cafeteria my first year here. That was like pre-COVID though, so kind of that ended quickly. But it's important because it's kind of funny. I always kind of laugh at that one because it's like something as simple as that. I would never think of that. Like me sitting in my office, the teachers in the classrooms, you would never think, oh, gee, I bet the kids want these forks and these dishes instead of what we have. It just never cross our mind. But that's the value of a student board representative. We've had a couple of committees to hear. Student Improvement Committee, we had we brought students from every grade, just kind of a representative sample, talk about issues that were important to them. And I think that so we did that, and that was my inspiration for the new lunch, for example. So kids during that, among other things, expressed that they wish that they had more free time during the day, more time to talk to their peers, a little more downtime. And that was, how I born this year student lunches are 45 minutes instead of the 20 that they were. And then kids are allowed to go to the library, go to the gym, and just kind of actually have a break during the day, like adults get during the day, right? Kids deserve one too. So that idea came from students saying, this is something, we're kind of stressed out. We're burned down. We need that. So that's the value of stuff like that. Next year, which is really interesting, Student Council is going to be meeting with Mr. Sherman to talk about, give input for the lunch menu. I've heard a lot of positives about the lunch menu, but it's always good, again, hear that voices. I put restorative practices and student voice because I just think that's such an important thing, because restorative practices to me are about students finding their voice. I do, most of my job is, talking to people through a problem. And whether that's talking to me, having two students talk to each other, having a student and a teacher, a student and a parent, whatever combination you want to do. And no one wants to do it. Nobody wants, when they're upset, to sit down in a room with someone who they're upset at and have that conversation. They'd rather just stew and I just want it to go away. But it's not going to go away. This is a skill that every kid struggles with and every adult struggles with. Doesn't matter how old you are. And restorative practices are a way to give kids this important skill. So we do a lot of harm repairs and mediations where we kind of, we don't force them. The kid always has a choice, but they get there. And then they kind of sitting in a room and having these difficult conversations. And then they learn to navigate those difficult conversations. They learn to advocate for themselves. They learn to listen to what the other side is saying, try to see the other side and try to come to some kind of resolution. To me, I just think that's the most important skill that a person can have, but it's also difficult and it never gets easier. I do it about 400 times a day and I still get a little nervous sometimes with going into a contentious conversation, And so it's such a good way to foster that voice. And we've done a ton of circles this year at the high school. Circles could be for anything. So we went into, I'll give you just one example. We went to a classroom where just the culture wasn't working. The kids were kind of acting out, the teacher was stressed out, kids were bickering with each other, there was some bullying, and it just kind of was out of control. We went in there, we had the circle, and the circle is the students talking. Like Michelle and I go in and we just ask questions. And students say, here's what I feel is, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I think is wrong. And they usually own it. Here's what I'm doing wrong. Here's my part in it. But then, the best part is most circles end with some kind of treatment agreement. Where you say, okay, well, so how do we make this better? How are we all going to agree to get on the same page? And so now the students get to create that class culture, and more importantly, fix a culture that's broken. Every time we went to a circle, and there's 100%, when we leave, it gets better. And that gets better because the students were able to hear their voice and say, yes, we're acknowledging the problem. Yes, some of us are the problem, but no one wants to live in that kind of chaos, and here's what we're going to do collectively to fix it. And so I just think, that's to me what restorative practices are all about. And it's all about student voice and harm repairs and having those interpersonal skills that, let's be honest, traditional discipline, traditional schools don't teach. You can't just say, oh, well, suck it up and walk away. That's just not the real world, and people don't grow like that. Of course, we also have.
One thing,
Yeah.
I was speaking to Michelle there the other day at the Ice Cap thing, and she said she's really loving her experience in the high school, with these circles, and she really feels they're very, very positive.
Yeah, they are. Thank you. They are. It's just you know what? It's always funny. People sometimes have like a negative perception or maybe a fear that it's something can go wrong, but really our kids are so authentic. And when you just give them a chance and you give them a little stick or, use different things as a talking piece each time, but like people respect the circle rules and people open up and it is really nice. And honestly, when I was disconnected, we did a lot in middle school and they're good there too. Like it's just an interesting thing. I just think it works really well. And of course, student council like everyone else. And our portrait of graduate, which I think I already told. Did I talk about that twice? Okay. All right. Losing my mind. All right. Any questions? Or any more questions?
When we talk about student empowerment, are students involved in any of the decisions about the way that the school will function? In terms of course offerings or programs or anything of that nature?
In terms of course offerings, yeah. So in terms of course offerings, is students express, so there's two things, there's clubs and course offerings. And if students express an interest and there's a need for that, then we try to implement it. I'll just give you a recent example. A kid wanted to do a fishing club. And so he came to me and, had a whole group of young men who wanted to start a fishing club. So it actually came to life. Now we had typically these things take a year, but in this instance, we had a teacher who said, I'll do it. I don't care about getting paid. And so he's just kind of running the fishing club now. Now, usually that same thing is a little longer of a process, but ultimately, if kids express a need or a desire for some kind of programming, we try to make it work, within any reasonable means that we can.
Any other question? I have one.
Okay, guess me 100 more. Okay.
I was just wondering, has there been any consideration about student evaluation of teachers?
No. Yeah, that's good for college. You know what? I will say for Teacher Appreciation Week, students wrote very nice notes about teachers. And I think that's
Those are appreciated.
yes. Those are
And I
appreciated.
think of the same token, get that when they have guidance meetings and things of that nature. This teacher does the best, that kind of has. Remember too, we still have to run, you know, they don't know what they don't know. It's not their fault. They just don't know what they don't know. We have to make sure that we oversee all of those things too. So this is a mountain. We call it 4 school districts. This is a mountain of student, like a mountain. I would put this up against probably, I would honestly say almost any school. The amount of things that we give kids choice to do. And it's great.
Yeah,
Because we're small enough to do that. You get in a school with 270 a class, that
at Schenectady, there
we have
was,
6,000,
nothing like this.
6,000 recommendations. It's hard to do. So,
Yeah.
With a small school, you can tell when a teacher's not good, you know,
Yeah,
it gets out.
Yeah. I guess like, yeah, students evaluate teachers all the time informally. I think that's, yeah, it's a good place for it to go.
tennis club was another too. Kids came from a tennis club too, and she also mentioned that, so there's another
Yeah,
avenue. History
Yeah.
club again next year. The kids came going about the history club, correct?
Yeah.
About ramping that back up. and-
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
did want to ask about the lunch, you know, the 45-minute
Mhm.
lunch. So you're running into any problems with that?
no, and not only are we not running into problems, we actually have our lowest course failures I think we've ever had. And I'll explain why. So I did a similar thing in Schenectady, and I knew if it worked in a school as big as that, it could certainly work here. So the structure is very simple. It's a 45-minute lunch. And then kids can go to either the library where they basically just kind of play video games, hang out, you know, just whatever. Or they go to the gym where they kind of play basketball or handball or whatever they're playing. The fitness center is open for the 9th and 10th grade. And so it's just a time in the middle of the day for kids to relax, hang out with their friends and get their lunch, which I think is important. But part of that is also the work recovery room. And that's kind of, I think that's a huge link to why our course failure is so low. So the work recovery room is, if you're not doing your work in class, if you're not completing your work in class, if you're goofing off, the teacher assigned you to work recovery room, which is mandatory. So now you still get to eat lunch, of course. You go eat your lunch, you got like 10, 15 minutes, and then instead of getting to do one of the fun things, you must go to the work recovery room. Now, if you finish your work, you can leave. And if you don't, you're there the whole period. And so the 9th and 10th grade in particular have really grown this. Like, all credit goes to them. And so because of it, kids know that, like, okay, I want to do my work, so I don't have to go to the work recovery room. But I don't want to go to the work recovery room, because if I don't do that, I get lunch detention. So it's leading to a lot more work completion, which I think is why our course failures are so low. We have about 50 course failures, 9 through 12 this semester, which I've never seen in a third quarter in my life.
The
Yeah, I
number
think
of students, 2 or more
Yeah.
failures?
Yeah.
Freshmen 2, sophomores 4, juniors 2.
Well, we used to have a
seniors
45-minute lunch.
Yeah,
And it worked really well. And
Yeah.
we were told that we had to go to the 20 minutes because of this, you know, and it was a detriment, because that's when you got to meet with kids.
Mhm.
Because they took the 20-minute away at the end of the day, so you couldn't pull them in anymore. So that
Yeah.
just worked.
And also, it also leaves me now, we have teacher meeting time during lunch as well. We kind of break up the duties and teachers can meet once a week. And that's something that we never had, grade level meetings, you know, every other week for each, you know, set of grades, which is just another
I'm so
bonus
glad
to
to see
it.
it come back. I'm just really, really happy about that.
Oh, good, yeah,
there's a
yeah,
good
definitely was
statistic
good.
for grades 6 through 12 in the 3rd quarter. Only 13 students were 2 or more failures.
That's great. That's
13.
great.
And you get to a level where you can't get much lower.
Yeah.
Like, meaning there's
Yeah.
always going to be
Right.
a few kids, you know. So it's one.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
6 was 1, 7 was 1, 8 was 1. So.
Good. Well, thank you very much. It's
Thank you,
very
Bob.
encouraging to hear that, and we appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, moving right along, the next thing on the agenda is the superintendent update. Oh, no, student representative report, I'm sorry. This is our student
Alice
representative.
has a softball game today.
I think we said it, right? I read it.
Yep,
So, yeah,
okay.
go on.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to the superintendent report.
Sounds good. We got a few things going on. One thing we want to talk about, and we discussed it last month, was Fort Plain wanted to look at doing a joint meeting to talk about the merger study. And it would happen the next meeting, and their next meeting happens to be June 18th. Theirs is a little bit later than what we've had in the past, so can you check your schedules, and if it's something we want to do? I feel No, I feel personally that it's a great thing. I feel it's better for our kids in the future, and it will be. The financial landscape, as we talked about in the state, is not particularly great. The ability to get quality teachers, all the stuff we talked about. Just filling teams and filling opportunities for our students is big. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't look at this. And if we do decide to map out something sooner than later, only because the farther we are away from this, the more we have to start over again. You know, and I don't think the summer is something we could put, I don't think the summer is something we can say we don't have to do in the summer because no one's in school. Because our community is still in our community. And if anything, the summer is probably less intrusive for everybody and would probably be welcome if we did do that. Mark mentioned before about doing a petition for the first round. Remember, there's always a binding vote. Everyone's gonna get a voice. No matter what happens, everyone's gonna get a voice. What Mark mentioned, a comment which was really great, I thought, was the ability to go out and get even more people. And if we don't, we don't, right? So I think we set a goal, like for example, New York State says your petition has to be the average of a 3-year for your vote. For us, it's about 200. I would say we have to set a goal to get 300. Right, so that way we know we're going above and beyond. And if Fort Plains is 175, they gotta get 270, you know, something like that. So we come in with 600 yeses. And if we don't get that, then again, we know where we stand. A 52-48 vote is well within the margin of error. And we know that this is never going to be a 70-30 vote. It just won't be. It won't be an 80-20 because of so many factors. People not understanding it, people who feel that everything is fine, which nothing's wrong, fine, and people holding on to, you know, the past. So I think we got to trudge through that base and continue to know that it's going to be best for kids. I guess that's the best way. And if we do it again and it goes down, then we know where we stand. But I'd be remiss to think if we didn't fight to do it, because with 1,000 people coming out for a vote and only 175 people coming to forums, if I still believe it, and I'll say it to the end, if 250 people come out to the forums, we would have been on to the next round because they got educated and people start to understand what the plight was with that. So I think we should look at it, but I think we should also kind of, I want to say this. We tiptoed through this because state ed said we had to tiptoe through this, right? And they restricted us to certain things we could say and can't say. And I think that hampered it too. I don't think the merger firm did us any service. And I think what we did, and I'm not patting anybody on the back, but what we did is we presented the issues and we presented the possible solutions. So I think if we did that again and did it sooner than later, I think we can move to a better direction. That's probably the best way. So if we do meet, if we decide this is a board decision, then we would have a meeting. I would reach out to Lauren and say, this is something we'd like to do. And if that date is good enough for you, let me know.
Is that good for everyone?
That's a Wednesday.
You're saying it's Wednesday,
Well,
June 18th?
Yeah, that's what they had on their board minutes.
All right, so you can still go ahead and say we could do.
Okay.
So
Okay,
this
so
would be exclusive of either of the other.
we'd have a
board
joint
meetings. This
and then
is
we'd have our
special.
business meeting.
Right.
Yeah, in the same spot. And it'll probably be over there only because we had the last one here. So we usually go back and forth.
So we would not have a meeting on June 12th?
Correct, correct. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yes.
So
What would
move
happen?
from the 12th to the 18th.
Everything would shift, yes, not my fault. Yep. I'll get you the exact dates and everything, but if we're okay moving forward, I'll make sure we solidify that. That make sense?
Have you heard anything from Fort Plain? Are they truly interested or
I think last time
was it, or
we
some?
talked in, what was it, in the meeting with the board, HFM?
Yep.
That was what, April, right, mid-April? When they said, yes, we'd be, right, you and Brenna and Lauren. I left already, but then you continued to talk to Lauren and
Yeah,
Brenna.
they said they were willing to explore it.
Okay.
You know, they have a much more contentious situation.
I know, it's only concerned about is that, you know, I don't think it's up to us really whether we present it to the public or not. I think we should just let them vote, you know? It's really not up to us to say yes or no, that they can or cannot have a vote. The public should be able to decide.
Yeah, but I think it'd be good for us to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully, so that we can come to a common agreement about where to go forward. And I've been in touch with Brenda, the president, and I'm gonna continue to be in touch with her. So we can hopefully work out a very collaborative approach.
Agreement?
Yep.
Yeah.
Building projects, but just kind of explain that we got, again, some good news from State Ed with the $1.1 million being moved from, and to their defense, we presented them with that amount, and that's the amount that they moved over, so they didn't have to do that. I think we really sold our case, and it worked out okay, so we're gonna work some final numbers, but I think they're gonna work out, and we'll be able to maybe get all three of these projects off without a hiccup. You know, the problem with incidentals is you always gotta leave some, because you never know, a side of a, I hate to say this, a side of a building or a wall or something could come apart, and all of a sudden in the mid-year, we've gotta do an $800,000 project, and it's not aidable, that money is, gone from us, so anyway, I think it will fit, and we'll keep vetting it out with them. On May 15th, anybody going to HFN BOCES with Bill Daggett? That starts, I think, at 9 o'clock, or 8 o'clock, I think. So, is it 9?
For us.
Okay, yeah, for Bill to be there, that'll be great. He always got some new stuff, as long as he doesn't do the same presentation. We got back word this week that I think if you remember me saying I was trying to get designation for a Google reference district. So we are one of 150 school districts out of 17,000 that Google has distinguished us as one of those districts, which that means this. We will get updates and input on things from Google to Education First out of the 150. We'll also showcase the things that we're doing here to other districts. And we'll also be on the inside. What I mean by that is if anybody knows about Google, you can't get somebody inside. You can't find somebody inside. Now we've got two contacts. One gave me their phone number, which is even more dangerous because I can call at any time. So it's a great opportunity for us to get a designation that we deserve because we also have, they're extremely amazed at how many Google One certifications we have, already Google 2, and also all the Google applications that we are using. In addition to that, we have Lauren, who's going to be a certified trainer. She's finishing that up, and we have 2 coaches that we're looking at. They'd like us to have 2 coaches, which is pretty much to get Google 1 and Google 2 certified and then go some training with them, which will be allow us to let them at faculty meetings or superintendent days, instruct the staff on some of the new things that Google is doing. So I think a really great designation for our district, and it took a couple of years to crack them and get there. But I think it's a great designation, and again, into one of the biggest companies that can really forge new things for us. So we'll do a press release, or they're gonna do a press release in a couple of weeks, and that'll go out as well. You saw the building project out front. They're starting to dig for that water retention. They'll have it all sewed up by the end of May, and they'll have sod out there, so it'll look fine for graduation time. I will notice when I pull it up. And if you look over on Mr. Rose's property, it looked like they cleaned everything out, which they did, to help move some of that water through. And then also, we're gonna build a whole retention area in the middle there, so it holds water before it goes to that dam, before it goes down to the village. We just got word today that I put in to present at the NYSBA conference in New York City, and we got picked to present there, and we're also presenting at the rural schools academies. And the NYSBA conference, we're talking about conflict resolution with Board of Education and district and how you handle conflict resolution. So, yeah, not that way. So a lot of good things in the works. And then obviously we have our budget vote May 20th. We have a little bit of a meeting after that at 5:15. 8:15 after it closes. You can do it virtually as well. And then quickly but surely, we get into the award season and concert season. So, because after next week, we are going to start to have a lot of little days off, right? Give backs, Memorial Days, that type of stuff. So, I think the high school has 19 class days then. All set.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Nick. Moving on to the policy committee.
Policy committee met, gave them everything about a month ago to look it over. These policies are pretty clear cut and dry, only because most of them are, you have to do this, you know, so I'll go through some of it. The governor has devised a new cell phone policy, for New York State. We just, put ours in here. So we already have a cell phone policy, so we're not too bad, right? So we're in pretty good shape there. So that's one of the policies. That is policy 7313.
Yep.
The next one is 6145, which is the right of employees to express breast milk in the workplace. That's a mandate by New York State. This was just written by NISBA, so we just followed the policy. Not gave you too many questions there because it's pretty clear cut and dry. The next one is 6212, which is extreme heat conditions. New York State put that in as well. It pretty much says what you have to do if there's extreme conditions. And if something reaches, what is it, sports services reaching the temperature, I think it's
85,
no,
that's my memory, 85.
this one. First heat condition defined in law, and the support services are 82 degrees. That was a little bit higher. What's that?
I was 82 at the
I think it was 88. Yeah.
85 and 90.
Correct. So
First
bottom
one
line
is
is,
sort of warning.
yeah, a warning level is 82, correct. The top is 88, yes. So if a room is 88 or higher, if a room is 88 or higher, then we have to find alternate spaces. Last year, we had that huge heat wave. We gave the rooms, and there was only 4 rooms in the 2 or 3 days that reached above 88. 88 is hard to reach. You can believe it, but 88 is hard to reach.
It does say at the 82 degrees just means we're turning off the lights,
Yes,
pulling down any shades,
there's interventions, yeah,
like that, and making sure you have water breaks.
which we already do, which is good. So that policy is what it is, and that's a state mandate, so we will put that into place. Well, that would, in some cases,
It goes over well with me.
6220, this was the policy that was this never changed. When tenure went in 2010 or 11, remember went from 3 years to 4? We just had to change that. So 2 to 3, 3 to 4. That's all the change in that one was. Next one was 3220, which is public expression in meetings. That's the language that Aaron told us to make sure we update, that we always followed, but it was never in policy. So we updated that, and that's on our front of our pages in the board docs. So that's updated now too as well. Let's see, next one is 6121, sexual harassment in the workplace. This was just updates, and this pretty much had to do with workplace violence. If you remember, they put that policy in last year. So this was updates to that, and it was a couple paragraphs built into that. So they said add that in there. That was about it for that policy.
That one goes on forever.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's added the last 3 years, actually. 3421, non-discrimination, equal opportunity. There was some stuff that NISBA said we need to take out and reframe. And that's why there's, the bullet points are taken out. And then there's the addition of a paragraph. And then a little bit on the sexual discrimination and sex-based harassment. That was the upgrade from what the last policy was. So just updates from, again, NISBA on that one. Next one is public access to records. And in addition to that was more about the FERPA law and the FOIL law, FOIL law. And there wasn't verbiage in there as deep as it should have been as far as NISBA's concerned. And litigation and hold on certain things the district would have to do if something was to happen. So that, again, is just the update. The next one is school safety plans. This was just language changes. Like, for example, they wanted to make sure it was trauma-informed drills as opposed to emergency drills. So we had to change some of that language, which NISBA told us to put in, and the state. And then there's just some updates on the non-discrimination, bullying, and anti-harassment of school districts. And that was, again, just some additions to do with building level things, and also updates to Title IX stuff. There were some new updates to Title IX because of the new administration on the federal level. So that had to update as well. So for the most part, very basic, and some were automatic. So if there's any questions on any of them, this is first reading, so you can look them over and we can suggest next month if there's anything, but I don't know what we changed because they're pretty, clear cut and dry, I guess, from this book. Instant.
All right, so we don't need to take action today.
Nope.
All right, any other questions and comments on any of those?
Send me any comments if you have, if you want me to investigate anything before next month.
Okay, so, moving right along to approvals, we will do the first 3 minutes separately, because there's different people that miss them, and then we will go on to, a consent agenda, which you can abstain from all. Okay, so, first one is the April 3rd, meeting. And, just trying to-
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Who's abstaining?
And I abstain.
Abstain. Thank you.
Okay, then, we'll,
Motion to accept.
Go ahead.
minutes for April 10th.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Abstain.
And, that's what you abstain.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. And then we have, the April 30th. Motion,
Yeah, motion.
Second.
all in favor? Abstain? Okay, and,
Motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
all in favor? Thank you.
The Wednesday, April 3rd meeting minutes that we just did.
Yep.
According to this, Mark and Keith both need to abstain.
Oh,
Says
I
members
abstain.
absent, Mark Ruby, Keith Finger.
I did abstain.
Keith did.
For the
You
30th.
abstained from April 30th. That was, it was in the morning on the Zoom.
I apologize.
Oh,
I did.
Okay, so, we will move on to the consent agenda. Bills, any questions there? I know it's gonna be a shock, but I actually don't have any questions.
Hurry up.
That's it.
Moving on.
All in favor?
Yay.
Budget transfers, anything there? Okay, moving on to treasurer's report, and I'll keep my mouth shut there as well. Memorandum of understanding. This has to do with, the
Contract.
teacher contract that we're extending for a year. Any questions there?
And they all voted and it was yes, so we're moving forward.
Okay, and, we have the Fort Plain, agreement with students.
Students, to go over there,
Anything there? And the Anderson Center agreement again, for students,
yeah. Yeah, these are all.
Yeah.
and Langen School as well. Okay, student transportation contract.
All these summer contracts are too.
And the two summer contracts after that, any questions?
Amsterdam wants to, and so yearly ones.
What is the story again with Amsterdam about, do they have a doctor there?
We have a couple kids that go to school in their district, so we have to pay for their health and welfare services. They go to a private school in Amsterdam, not Amsterdam school, but a private school in Amsterdam.
So they go there for their health care issues?
They go to that private school, so then we're responsible since they live in the district to pay for their health.
Okay, and then the SRO contract. You all good with that? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to personnel, again, I would entertain a motion for a consent agenda. Motion. Second. All in favor? Thank you. A clerk of election, chief inspector, inspector. So that's all for the.
Budget vote.
Budget vote. Any questions on any of that? Okay, then the school counselor.
Yeah, we had a great round of interviews. It was a number of interviews, which is fantastic. And we have a local person from Johnstown who's a former very good athlete there, a student from Johnstown, actually a personal trainer on top of it, and excited to be a part of our district. So very excited to move forward with that.
Okay, and then appointed teacher for special education.
Yep, this is the teacher who finished up their certification.
And then we have a leave request.
Yes. We wish her well, only a month, great timing. She'll be back.
Okay, and then summer drama volunteers.
Starting to get that going. We have quite a few already, which is great.
And I see Lori's name is not on there anymore.
She's doing Fort Plain Drama Club.
Okay,
It's got one tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, 4:30, it's free, it opens the public.
where is it gonna be?
Fort Plain High School Auditorium.
And what is
Fifth and
it?
sixth grade students performing the storybook course. Jack is on trial for going up the beanstalk, stealing the stuff from the beanstalk.
Okay. And where is it again?
Fort Plain High School in the right in the auditorium at 4:30 tomorrow.
Okay.
Open to the public, it's free.
Okay.
It'll take us 35, 40 minutes. Love to see.
Okay. Then we have point winner coaches. Still have a few blank spots.
Yep, not too many, not bad.
It's really-
And so no questions there. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda.
Second,
All in favor? Thank you. Old business, that's your blank, so we'll go to new business. It's the draft meeting dates for next year. I noticed that they're all just one date per month, so that's something that we all want to stick with at this point,
Yes.
because we had gone to two, as you know. So this is agreeable to everyone? Okay, so I guess I'll just go with that then.
Yeah, it was one, I don't want to change, it was one on a Tuesday. Or Wednesday, the August one,
it's not booked up anymore.
just a point of emphasis, August one, I think it's what we moved to Tuesday, the 12th, yeah.
And I guess next month's meeting, we can sign on the date for the summer retreat.
Yes.
And also maybe work on the agenda for that as well. So just kind of keep that in mind and think of what things you might like to pursue in the retreat. Okay? So, do you have anything for exec?
Promise it'll be quick.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to go into exec.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, wonderful weekend, since I won't see you.
Yes, you also well.
Yeah, before you take off. Come out of exec, so
Go home.
to adjourn.